Today, if you stand beside a Dutch highway, you will see familiar names rolling past without end. Golf, Polo, Pat. Volkswagen dominates the sales charts as if this were a natural part of everyday life in the land of windmills. Yet, behind that modern, orderly picture lies a strange paradox. The Netherlands has no true national car brand, no mechanical icon with the stature of Germany, Britain, or Italy. This has led many to believe that the Netherlands never truly belonged to the world of automobiles. But history tells a different story. More than a century ago, this small nation once stood at the cutting edge of automotive engineering. Bold, different, and ahead of its time. Today, we turn back the clock to understand why all of that gradually disappeared from the Dutch automotive industry. At the beginning of the 20th century, when the world was still debating whether the automobile was a luxurious toy or the future of humanity, this young industry resembled a wild frontier. Hundreds of small companies were born, each carrying the ambition to change how people moved, only to vanish quickly without a trace. In that chaotic landscape, the Netherlands, a small country with limited resources and no large domestic market, unexpectedly gave rise to a name that captured the attention of all Europe: Spyker. Before building automobiles, Spyker was a renowned carriage maker. It was they who crafted the magnificent golden coach for the Dutch royal family, a symbol of supreme craftsmanship and national pride. When the internal combustion engine began to replace horse-drawn transport, Spyker did not stand aside. In 1900, the company introduced its first automobile, built under license from Benz, using a two-cylinder engine producing only 2 to 5 horsepower. Modest, but it was the first step toward a much greater dream. That dream reached its peak in 1903, when Spyker unveiled the Spyker 60 horsepower, a machine that could be considered insane for its time. With a top speed of around 70 mph, it was fast enough to make many believe it was dangerous, not only for its driver, but for society itself. Beneath the hood lay an 6L6-cylinder engine, the first production car in the world to feature such a configuration. But Spyker did not stop at raw power. The 60 horsepower was also the first car equipped with four-wheel drive and four-wheel brakes, technologies that would not become industry standards until many decades later. In 1903, this was a leap far beyond the imagination of most competitors. Yet, the history of the automobile industry is always unforgiving to those ahead of their time. Spyker produced fewer than 2,000 cars throughout its initial lifespan. Poor management, soaring development costs, and a market that was not yet ready gradually strangled the company's ambitions. By the early 1920s, Spyker declared bankruptcy, closing a brief but brilliant chapter. The 1950s then opened an entirely new chapter for the Netherlands. After years of war and devastation, the country slowly revived with a sense of optimism and a desire to rebuild the future. Before the war, automobiles in the Netherlands had been symbols of social status, reserved for doctors, businessmen, and the elite. But as the economy recovered and the middle class emerged and grew, the car gradually became an attainable goal. No longer a distant fantasy, the automobile became a symbol of stability, of family life, and of the belief that tomorrow would be better than today. At the same time, a distinctly unique cultural phenomenon emerged: roadside tourism. On weekends, the Dutch drove out to the highways not to go anywhere in particular. They parked along the roadside watching streams of vehicles pass by, talking about styling, engine sounds, and the sense of freedom that cars represented. In a society once constrained by war and scarcity, simply watching automobiles roll by was enough to spark excitement. May 29, 1955, marked a symbolic moment. The first traffic jam in Dutch history occurred not as a transportation disaster, but as a source of pride. Newspapers reported it, people talked about it, and authorities realized that the automobile had officially become an inseparable part of modern society. A country once known for bicycles and canals was now beginning to learn how to live with an ever-growing flow of cars. As the need for a compact, easy-to-use car suited to Dutch family life became increasingly clear, the answer did not come from Germany or France. It came from an industrial workshop steeped in Dutch pragmatism, where two brothers, Hub and Wim van Doorn, were quietly pursuing a very different path. That company was DAF, short for Van Doorn's Automobile Fabric. Before producing passenger cars, DAF was already well known for trailers, trucks, and buses. They understood one fundamental principle: durability, simplicity, and efficiency mattered more than flash or glamour. When DAF decided to enter the family car market, they did not aim to build a powerful or luxurious vehicle. They wanted to create a car that anyone could drive. In 1958, DAF introduced the DAF 600, a small family car powered by a two-cylinder air-cooled engine. At first glance, the DAF 600 was unremarkable. Modest styling, compact dimensions, and just enough power for city streets and rural roads. But what truly caught Europe's attention was hidden deep within the drivetrain. The DAF 600 was equipped with a revolutionary invention: the Varomatic transmission, the direct predecessor of the modern continuously variable transmission CVT. Instead of complex gear sets, the Varomatic used two rubber belts and a pulley system to alter the gear ratio continuously. No shifting, no clutch. The car adjusted itself automatically to speed and load. By the late 1950s, the idea of an automatic car was still associated with expensive luxury models from Jaguar or Mercedes-Benz. DAF brought that experience to a small, economical, and affordable car. The Dutch affectionately called the Varomatic headpint Pukia the smart gear lever. For many families, this was more than technology. It was liberation. Anyone could drive regardless of age or experience. But that very advantage gradually became a double-edged sword. DAF earned a reputation as an old lady's car. Too gentle, too easy to drive, lacking any sporting feel. In a Europe increasingly obsessed with masculinity and speed, DAF struggled to attract younger buyers. Then, a strange phenomenon emerged. Almost humorous, yet destined to become legendary. Thanks to the characteristics of the Varomatic, DAF cars could drive in reverse at nearly the same speed as going forward. From this, reverse racing events were born during the 1970s to 1980s. In these races, the small DAFs unexpectedly became the Formula One of the reverse driving world, beating every other competitor. By the late 1960s, DAF's limitations were becoming impossible to ignore. While European rivals continuously improved engines, styling, and performance, DAF remained loyal to its old philosophy: compact, simple, and easy to drive. What had once been a strength now became a burden. Slow acceleration, an aging image, and a lack of new models caused DAF to steadily lose appeal, especially among younger customers hungry for speed and style. Sales stagnated, development costs rose, and the company lacked the resources to reposition its brand in an automotive industry entering an era of unprecedented competition. In the early 1970s, a decisive turning point arrived. Volvo acquired DAF's passenger car division. For Volvo, it was an opportunity to expand production and gain access to modern manufacturing facilities in the Netherlands. For DAF, it marked the end of the dream of a national passenger car brand. Transitional models such as the Volvo 66 still carried DAF's engineering DNA. But the DAF name on passenger cars gradually disappeared by the mid-1970s. At this point, many of you may be asking, if DAF had already been acquired, why did it still appear in reverse racing during the 1970s to 1980s? The answer is simple. These were not official motorsport events organized by DAF. They were spontaneous activities, festive, humorous, and deeply grassroots in nature, usually taking place at local fairs, classic car days, and community events. As the 20th century drew to a close, just when it seemed that the Dutch name had completely vanished from the automotive world, an unexpected revival effort emerged. In 1999, entrepreneur Martin de Bruin decided to awaken the name Spyker from the ashes of history. But Spyker in the 21st century was no longer a pioneering car maker for the masses. It was reborn as a handcrafted supercar brand. Small, luxurious, and extremely exclusive. Models such as the Spyker C8 embodied a rare fusion of modern supercar performance and classical mechanical artistry. The exterior design echoed 1950s racing cars with bare aluminum bodywork, exposed rivets, and deliberately hand-shaped curves. Beneath the hood sat a naturally aspirated V8 engine supplied by Audi, renowned for its durability and razor-sharp sound. The interior was where Spyker's personality shone most clearly. Polished metal surfaces, exposed gear mechanisms, and analog gauges reminiscent of an aircraft cockpit. Not luxurious in the conventional sense, but mechanically pure, built for those who truly love machines. But nostalgia alone was not enough to sustain an automaker in the 21st century. When entrepreneur Victor Müller took control of Spyker, his ambitions far exceeded the company's realistic scale. In the early 2000s, Müller made a bold move, acquiring the SA brand from General Motors, hoping to revive both names at the same time. Reality, however, was ruthless. After years under General Motors' control, SA had lost the independent engineering identity that once defined it. When GM withdrew, SAB fell into the hands of small investors lacking capital and scale. Under Victor Müller, the company lacked sufficient cash flow to maintain production, pay workers, or develop new models. Assembly lines in Trollhättan repeatedly came to a halt. The supply chain collapsed. SA went bankrupt in 2011, dragging Spyker into a prolonged financial crisis. The dream of reviving a Dutch automotive legacy collapsed once again. This time, not due to a lack of technology, but because of insufficient economic foundations and scale in a fiercely globalized industry. However, the absence of national car brands does not mean that the Netherlands has left the automotive world behind. On the contrary, the country quietly changed roles from leading storyteller to backstage specialist. The factory in Born, once the pride of DAF, now operates under the name VDL Nicar. Here, vehicles bearing the BMW and MI badges are assembled to some of the strictest standards in Europe. In Tilburg, a thoroughly modern name appeared, Tesla. Tesla's assembly facility there once played an important role in completing the Model S and Model X for the European market. Not full-scale manufacturing from scratch, but enough to demonstrate that the Netherlands remains a reliable link in the global automotive supply chain. Alongside this, the Netherlands continues to support small, specialized, and highly individual manufacturers. Donkervoort, with its ultra-lightweight sports cars focused purely on driving feel, proves that the spirit of independent engineering has never disappeared. Brands like Burton and other specialty vehicle builders continue to exist on the fringes of the industry where passion matters more than production volume. The reality of the Dutch automotive industry therefore takes on an unusual shape. No Detroit, no homegrown Volkswagen, but a history filled with pioneers, ideas far ahead of their time, and a quiet yet enduring role in the modern automotive world. The Netherlands may no longer stand on the main stage, but it has never left the backstage. And sometimes it is precisely there behind the scenes that the most important gears of history continue to turn in silence. If you can feel the pulse of history through steel gears, If names like Spyker or DAF bring back memories of a time of pure, daring mechanics, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Hit like and share this video. It helps keep the forgotten stories of the automotive world alive. And if you lived through that era or simply love machines with a soul, leave a comment. Your memories are the most important part of this film. See you again.